It has finally happened. It's been a long time coming, but I finally have a story today that is not only well written, but it's good. Thank bloody God, if I had to read another atrocious story, I think I'd have a hernia. I mean, the last story, that was just a bloody, I don't know what that was. That was like such a mindfuck. It was such a mindfuck, and it made no sense. And then the two stories before that, the Looney Tune double features, they were technically well written, but, and then the Spanish fly invasion. That story. That story that really affected me in a bad way and made me be an ass to Meg. And another reason why I'm glad that today's story is a good story is because after this review, I am going to have a chat with Meg after. And I'm hoping that this chat will break the ice between the two of us, because I did warn her about the episode that decided to oh so lovely show her nightmare for everyone to see, including myself, and I didn't tell her about that. I just said, the web show spied again, so you might want to brace yourself for the next episode. She definitely watched it because she's been very to herself for the last week, and she seems very nervous around me. Like, she'll talk to me and stuff, but it's like she's on edge. So I want to have a chat with her after this episode, or after this review, I should say, to hopefully break the ice. And I'm going to do something that I normally wouldn't do, and I already know it's going to be very, very corny, and it's either going to make her be very touched that I did this said thing, or it's going to make her laugh her ass off. But if it makes her laugh her ass off, that's good too, because, at least she'll be smiling, and at least she'll be in a better mood, and either way, it'll hopefully break the tension. But I've been reading a lot of Outlander lately. The first book, I'm still on the first book, but, I got to the point where, Jamie does something not so nice to Claire, and she's obviously upset at him for it, and what happens is that he, makes an oath to her. It's similar to an oath that he made to his uncle, but he personalizes it for her, and he makes this oath to her, and I thought, that's very sweet. So I'm going to attempt to do that with Meg. And I already know it's going to be very corny, but I'm hoping that it'll work. And I'm telling you all about this now because I have a sneaking suspicion that the web show might spy and show this after the episode's over. So just giving you a heads up about it now, brace yourself, because I'm going to do something that is it might be cringy, but I'm hoping it'll be worth it. All right, let's get back to the actual review. So today's story is a Witcher story, based off of the television show of The Witcher. You see, The Witcher is a television series, a game series, and a book series. The book series came first, then the game series, and now the television show. So this story is called All That Was Good, All That Was Fair, All That Was Me Is Gone. Well, that's kind of ironic, seeing I was just talking about the Outlander series, and this is from the Skyboat song, which is featured in the Outlander television show. And the author is Dandelion Bloom. So it's rated M. It's in The Witcher, as I said. The characters in it are Eskil, Lambert, Vesemir, Cerelia. Oh, wait. I know a few of those characters are mentioned, but you think they would list the characters as Jaskier and Geralt, seeing that's primarily about them, but I digress. So this was published back in July of 2020. It has over 7,000 words. It's a one-shot, so one of my gripes about the story is that it should have been broken up into chapters. Has over 100 comments, over 2,000 kudos, over 500 bookmarks, and over 9,000 hits. You see, the thing about Archive of Your Own is that it goes more into the statistics of a story when you click on it versus fanfiction.net. That just shows how many favorites and how many reviews and whatnot. I think I still prefer fanfiction.net when it comes to navigation, but that's because I'm just more familiar with it. So the summary. Somewhere deep in a forest, a man drags himself from his grave by sheer power of will. He lies gasping on the floor and does not know who or what he is. The world is wide and wonderful, though, and there's so much to see. So the story opens up just like that. It's from Jaskier's point of view. He's the one that has come back to life. But how the story starts off, he's just referring to himself as the body. Like he's kind of learning how to breathe again. He's learning how to walk again. He's taking in all the surroundings, how beautiful everything is, and how the birds are very pretty, and how the music is very pretty. He comes across some wolves, but they turn out to be wogs. Wogs? I'll just say wolves. I'm probably saying it wrong. So he comes across them, but they're afraid of him for some reason, and it'll be later on revealed why. He ends up finding a river, and when he goes to the river, this is where he learns how to talk again. So he, sees his face in the reflection, and he says he's dirty, and then he starts to say it right. So he cleans himself, and it gets dark, and he's looking up at the sky, and he finds the sky to be utterly fascinating. So it's like he's a newborn babe, but in an adult body, can kind of appreciate the beauty of everything. And he starts to hear a noise, so he follows the noise and comes across a family. It's a family that's camping out on the side of the road for the night, and it's a husband, a child, and his wife. And they notice him, and it goes from their point of view, and they're frightened of him because, he does look human, but he's not quite human, and he has red eyes, so something is obviously off about him. He's kind of like some weird zombie vampire thing, but not quite a zombie or a vampire. But let's just say he's definitely not human anymore. And he, goes back to Jaskier's point of view, and he's talking to the husband because the wife wants nothing to do with Jaskier. She's frightened of him, but the husband is trying to reach out to Jaskier, and he tries to offer him food, and he offers him an apple. But Jaskier, he can't eat the apple. He tries to eat it, but it tastes disgusting, so he just throws it into the fire. And he gets distracted by the fire. So the man and his wife, they decide to leave. And, the man actually does feel bad about it because when Jaskier sees that he's leaving, he's crying out for them to stay, and they won't stay because they're afraid of him. But, at least the husband feels bad about it. So Jaskier is obviously upset. The fire burns out, and he decides to, just keep walking. So it's a couple of days later, and he comes across some plants. And he gets distracted because he starts to have memories of his past life. First he hears a laugh, and it's his own laugh. And then he hears a name, and it's his name. And that's when he knows that he is Jaskier. So his memories are starting to come back to him little by little. So he comes across a village a few days later. And he's hanging out in the village, and he's learning from overhearing the villagers how to talk and stuff again. He begins to realize that he can understand language. So he practices to himself how to speak as he's leaving the village, he's making tones. He, realizes that he can sing, so he tries singing. And as he's leaving the village, he ends up getting attacked by some of the villagers. And, the villagers want him dead just because he's different. And this enrages Jaskier. So he brutally attacks them, he goes on a frenzy, attacks him. He does kill one of them. It's implied that he rips out one of the people's throats, and the other one just runs off. And, he is kind of horrified by what he had done. But, it doesn't really dawn on him exactly what he's done. He's a little bit horrified, but he's just kind of in a weird daze. So he takes one of their horses, and the horse is obviously frightened of him, but he rides on the horse for a bit, and then the horse leaps over a river and causes Jaskier to fall off. He ends up cracking his head against the stones, and you think he's going to drown, but no, he survives this. So this goes into another flashback, and he keeps hearing a voice. It's a man talking to him, and this man has yellow eyes, and it turns out that it's Geralt. So now he's having memories of Geralt. So he wakes up in the water, he can't breathe, and he ends up, getting out of the water, and he vomits, so that way he's no longer, inhaling water. And it's obvious that he's not, dead, that he's not a zombie, because he can still feel pain, he still needs to breathe. It just seems like it takes a lot more to kill him now. And he realizes that he's, ridiculously hungry. And he just, all of a sudden, starts running. He starts, running. He hears something, and it just causes him to go into a hunter-esque type rampage, where when he snaps out of it, he realizes that he's standing over the body of a dead doe. So it's implied that he was the one that killed the doe. And he ends up eating the doe, and he's eating it raw, like a wild animal eating it raw. And then he has a flashback of him criticizing Geralt for how Geralt was eating his food, because I guess witches will eat rabbit raw and stuff. So the flashback is him criticizing Geralt for that, and then when he comes to, he realizes that he is definitely not human anymore, and that what he did was utterly disgusting. Like, he can't believe that he killed the deer like that and ate it like that, and he, ends up going back to the corpse of the deer, and he thanks it for its mate, and he just stops walking again. And so there's 2 days later, and he can see that there's a village off in the distance, but he wants to avoid the village because of what happened the last time he went to a village. He knows that he's not human anymore, and, he also was still horrified by what he had done to the deer. So then he starts to sing. He flash forwards to the foot of the mountain near the village, and there's a witcher. It turns out to be Geralt, and he hears the singing. He hears him, but he thinks that it's just a ghost. So he pretty much says that everything's fine to Ciri, because Ciri is with him. He's like, oh, it's nothing, I'm just hearing things. And so they go back to Jaskier's point of view. He's near the village, and again, it's talking about how he stinks, his clothing is, really atrocious. His shoes are ruined, but he avoids the village because he doesn't want to have a confrontation with the villagers again. So it goes into another flashback between him and Geralt, some bonding stuff with them. And the flashback goes to him, singing to Geralt later on, and Geralt doesn't like the song that Jaskier is singing, and Jaskier is obviously upset by this. And then, it goes later on in the flashback that Jaskier is trying to sleep, and he can hear Geralt and Yennefer, making love into the next room. And, Jaskier wakes up, because he's kind of sleeping, but not really. But, he thinks that he was abandoned by his friends at this point because of how his memories are coming back. He thinks that they must have left him behind. So, he treks up into the mountains, and it starts to snow, and he starts to sing the Skyboat song some more. And as he's singing it, it flashes to someone else's point of view. One of the other witches, Eskel, can hear him singing, and he recognizes the voice as, Jaskier. And at first he's like, it can't be him, it can't. And then he sees him, he can actually see him, and he's like, oh my god, it's Jaskier. So, he's horrified because Jaskier obviously is not human anymore, but, Jaskier at this point knows who he is, and he recognizes Eskel, and they start talking, and Eskel pretty much says, it's like, Geralt buried you. And, Jaskier asks Eskel, what have I become? So Eskel is like, have you ever heard of a revenant? Revenant. So he's a revenant. So it goes into a flashback of Geralt telling him what a revenant is. And it's kind of like an undead. It's kind of like a zombie, but it's not quite a zombie. He says they are not of this world. They are revenants. And I guess they're considered monsters technically. So, Jaskier in the flashback asks, do they eat people like ghouls? And Geralt's like, well, no. Yes, they can. They'll hunt when they're starving, but they can't be harmed by traditional means. They come back by sheer force of will. It's more than unfinished business. They don't come back for closure. They have more life they want to experience. They live in their own way. They are beyond rare. Only 4 have been recorded, the last centuries ago. So pretty much, you get killed, but you're like, you know what, I don't want to stay dead, so you force yourself to come back to life, so you're kind of a zombie, but not really. It's like it's a super zombie, but you're not a zombie, you don't want to eat brains. It's something like that. It's a little confusing, but it's interesting. So, Jaskier is being brought back to where the others are with Eskel. And it goes into this bit where, they get back to... they're in the courtyard. They go into the courtyard, and there's, this person who yells, what the fuck? Because they're seeing Jaskier, and they're like, what the hell is that? And they don't realize what he is at first, and then they realize that it's Jaskier. And then Geralt comes out, and he sees Jaskier, and he's like, he's saying that I buried you, and he's, acting like completely out of it, like he can't believe that Jaskier is back. And Geralt is being like very uncharacteristic with Jaskier, like being very gentle and whatnot, and he's like hugging him, and he's being very gentle with him. And, he wraps his arms around him in a hug, like he's hugging him tightly. And, Geralt keeps saying that he's sorry. And they go and bring him inside, and they, get him changed, get him all cleaned up and changed into good clothing and whatnot. And I guess, like, Jaskier was crying, and so was Geralt a little bit. And, they go and eat supper. And Jaskier obviously has to eat meat raw because, he's not human anymore. And someone kind of makes a jab at him for doing that, but, he kind of makes a jab back. But they're all joking and whatnot. So they ask him to sing, if he still remembers how to sing. And so he starts to sing to them. But the song in question it's quite obvious that it's being directed towards Geralt, and Geralt is, like, memorized by it. And a bit later on, Geralt comes to Jaskier's room. And, Geralt is being very gentle with him, and he keeps saying that he's very sorry, and that he'll never forgive himself, and he said that he couldn't do anything. Because what happened was, I guess, Jaskier had gotten stabbed. He was alone from the party, and he had gotten stabbed, and by the time Geralt had come back to him, even though he was still alive, if he had been tended to immediately, he wouldn't have died, but because the infection was taking its toll on him, he ended up dying because of the, infection. And apparently he had been dead for like a couple of years, so a couple of years had passed since they last seen each other. So, Geralt feels very guilty, but obviously it wasn't his fault. He thought he was dead. And what happens is that it's kind of implied that they make love to each other. And, the next part of the chapter, or the next final few paragraphs, are them just, snuggling with each other. They kiss, and then they settle back into each other's arms, and pretty much that's how the story ends. I mean, I thought it was cute. I don't think they are a ship in reality of the television show, but I do think it was a cute story. It was well written. I mean, again, I've only seen, like, the pilot and maybe a couple of episodes afterwards, but it's been a couple of years. I'm not sure if this is a popular ship or not. I just know the main ship for the show, I think, is him and Yennefer. And I think in the games, it's him, Yennefer, and then some other lady, from what I can recall, from what I've heard. I'm not sure, but I know in the show, I think it's supposed to be him and Yennefer. So yes, I would recommend you take a look at the other author's stories if you like The Witcher, because the other stories that this author has written have all been for The Witcher. I think most of them are for the TV show, but I think there are a couple that are based off of the game. And there might be some based off of the books, I'm not sure. But, if you like this story, I would recommend you check out the author's other works. Because, the author, he did pretty good here. I would recommend, in the future, though, for the title, have it be capitalized. And maybe just have the title be All That Was Good, All That Was Fair. And maybe have it be All That Was Me Is Gone, but get rid of the parentheses and just have a comma, because that would just look better. Because when you have parentheses in your title, it's a little clunky, if you know what I mean. But aside from that, it was a well-written story. Well, I hope you all liked today's episode. If you do, please be sure to leave a like and leave a comment. Now, if you haven't subscribed yet, please do. I will greatly appreciate it. I will see you all next week. Wish me luck for what I'm about to do. And if you don't want to see the potential web show spying, I recommend you just exit out of the video after I do my sign-off. I'm sure if the web show is going to spy, I'll have a pop-up telling you to, sod off. So, see you all next week. Until then, cheerio. Hey. Hello. Which book are you on now? Oh, I'm on the most recent book. Already? Wow. You read that rather quickly. How many times have you read this series again? 3 or 4 times now, I'd say. Bloody hell, Meg. Well, it's a good series, and also I want to make sure my mind is refreshed for when the next book comes out. That way I don't forget things, you know what I mean? No, that is true. So when's the final book supposed to come out? I'm not sure yet. I mean, technically, this current book I'm reading was supposed to be the final, but that fell through. So the book you're currently reading was supposed to be the final book, but now they're doing another book. Yeah, that's about right. Well, that happens. They probably had another idea. And, as long as it doesn't get stale, why not? Have it keep going. Yeah, very true. How was the fanfic that you reviewed? Oh, well, you'll see when I upload the episode. I just finished editing it now, so... Okay. Well, I look forward to it. You did watch the episode I warned you about, didn't you? How could you tell? Well, you've been rather to yourself the last couple of days, so I kind of suspected. Yeah, well... Seeing a nightmare of yours broadcasted for everyone to see on the internet does a number on you. You said in your last episode that you did rewatch the beginning bit. How far did you get? I stopped watching it when it started the actual review itself. So I did see not only the nightmare, but our conversation afterwards and your mutterings to yourself after I had went upstairs. I know you wouldn't. Okay, I know you wouldn't do that again. Me muttering that, it was still fresh. Okay, I was still a bit rattled. I know you wouldn't do that again, and I'm really, really sorry that you had to see that. I really am. Hopefully the stupid web show doesn't showcase any of that crap again. But I am sorry. I swear to you by the life of our Creator, and by the straight blade in which I hold, that I give you my fealty, and pledge to you my loyalty and my protection. If ever I should raise my hand in rebellion against you again, then I ask that this blade might slice my throat. Was that from Outlander? Yes, I've been reading a lot of it lately, and I liked the vow that Jamie made to Claire after he, so I thought I'd do the same to you. Of course, it's years too late, but I'm going to stop you right there, Sue. I'm very touched. I kid you not. I am very, very touched. That was very, very sweet. But I gotta say, you are such a goofball. I know I'm a goofball. But hey, I did get you to smile, did I not? That you did, Sue. That you did. Thank you. Right. Let's get something to eat.